might have been around when it did, and I hate the word I, so I might try to get this in the word we, because today I know God behind Narcotics Anonymous got it started. All the recovery people in the world, in my opinion, God got them here, and I gave us all a high power. So that's my philosophy. It's real simple. I don't have any great ideas about how you're going to find God, but I will tell you a little later on about a guy that really made a lot important in my life. He was a janitor, and I ran into him when I was using and running a drugstore back in 1965 illegally, and he used to come through every morning mopping the floor. His name was George, a little old bitty dude, black guy, and he was old enough to have been the bus boy at the Last Supper, and he'd come through mopping the floors and waxing it, and we'd be back there gambling, using, shooting dope, and doing first one thing and another, and he'd just look at it, shake his head, and go home. And I didn't see him anymore until 1978 when the NA started, and we started with two girls and me, and one girl came for, this was in June 6, 1978, and one girl came for about 2-3 weeks, and she left, and another came for about 2, maybe 3 months. I don't know. It's been a long time, and she quit, and so I was sitting there by myself with this little white book Jimmy Kennan had sent me in May of that year, 1978. He sent me a white book, 2 or 3 IPs, and a bunch of several little chips, maybe a dozen. And at that time, everybody was carrying a big book around. We didn't have any NA. That's all the NA stuff we had. It was a little white book and some IPs and some little tokens, NA tokens. And Jimmy would, he sent, that was a starter kit. And but at any rate, I sat up there and reading that little white book. But every night, coming down the hall was this little black dude that was so old, and he'd come in, we'd look in the window and see there wasn't anybody in there but me, and he'd come on in and sit down and talk. And he was telling me right after the Civil War, his folks came over from, I believe he said, North Georgia, somewhere over there. And but they started making whiskey out in the forest down in, and he'd been a drunk ever since he could remember. And when he was telling me this story, he told me that one day, sitting under a tree out there, he just begged God to have him not drink anymore. And when he was telling me this story, he said he hadn't had a drink in 33 years. So I kind of listened to him. He used to tell me a lot of things. He wasn't very well educated or anything, but the reason I'm telling you this story is because this guy, there wasn't nobody coming to the meeting, and he'd sit down and talk to me about using drug, alcohol, and it kept me there for about 7 months. Because I don't believe I'd have stayed. It didn't have 2 years clean. I just closed down. But Jimmy and Bo and all of them that I talked to said, keep the door open, God will provide. And that's, basically what happened. This guy told me, this is a meaningful little old story, because we got a little convention here in North Alabama. It's called From Darkness to Light. And anyhow, this little dude was telling me that after he finally got sober, he got him a job on a little town out there in that forest, and he came through that town going home every day, and he passed his greenhouse, and they're all the time throwing out bushes and shrubs and stuff, and you pick them up, take them home, and repot them and get them going again. There's a bunch of old churches built in the 1800s out there in that forest, but they were all white churches. Everybody went there was white. And on these nights, when the moon's so bright and it's kind of like twilight, and you see, he'd go out there and plant trees couldn't understand why the churches beginning to look so much better. And after about 2 or 3 years, they caught one day. And the deacons and the elders and the board of stewards, they all went out and invited his family to come to church. And he said, we went to church, so we really enjoyed it. And then he said this, he said, the greatest thing about the whole deal was I no longer had to work in the dark. I could work in the light. Because after he got caught, you know, and things like that is what kept me going in Narcotics Anonymous. Because if George hadn't come, you know, and I really didn't know about the importance of George. And this stuff is not important to anybody but me in my stuff. But it took me about 3 or 4 years later. Because one night rather, I opened that thing and George didn't come. And I never would forget how I felt. I felt like I lost my best friend. And I went down to the office he worked out of, a lawyer's office, and he told me George called him sick. And I went over and met his wife. But it took me a good while to understand that George was a messenger. God put him in my life to help me keep that door open. And that's the only reason, or I wouldn't have made it. 12 years later, we had an explosion of Narcotics Anonymous here in this town, and it went to pot, and I was sitting in the meeting by myself again. But I had a lot more time, see. And it's come back a little bit. It's been a lot better than it was. Well, we've got some people with some good, clean time around here, and we got some people that are staying clean. And I don't know, when I got my life cleaned up, I was in another recovery program, and it was a strange thing, because I really never did fit completely in with all these people, because I remember hanging around them a long time, and I'd slip a red in my mouth and go to the bathroom, you know, take a little something, you know, keep me going. I think, boy, those people are stupid, you know. I'm using them, and they don't even know it. And I'm killing myself. I'm not killing them, you know. And it was really amazing to God reveals a lot of things to us, I guess. And I remember after I first got clean, I was kind of unique in the so-called, quote, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if it's okay to say that here, but I'm going to have to say it because it's part of my deal. There were treatment centers with, you know, back in those days they had a cure for alcoholism called drug addiction, you know. And, you know, they'd send you home with 2 or 3 scripts, and you could go sit in the AA meeting spinning, you know, at the top. And, you know, some of them get on the nod pretty good. And but I used to go to AA meetings and talk about using drugs. That's why I couldn't get all that straightened out. And, you know, that's what this whole deal is about anyhow, is living. Not so much the dope. But, I got pretty popular on the speaking here in AA, because these people couldn't understand what was going on. You know, these sponsors would have somebody come into meetings, but they couldn't seem to connect with them. These people are in outer limits, you know, kind of. They were in a cosmos that, you know, didn't exist on Earth. And I always talk about going to Alcoholics Anonymous and using drugs. And they were wanting some of these people to hear that, you know. And I was in Birmingham one night at a place called Center Point. I've been asked to come to speak there. And after the meeting was over, I was talking about using drugs and everything, and a lot of young people were getting thrown out of the other fellowships because they mentioned music. They were addicts, you know, and the primary purpose for those people were main requirement to stop drinking. And but this man came up to me after it was over, and he was really dressed well. He was immaculate looking. He had a tie, shirt on, he had beautiful white hair, had steel gray eyes. I never will forget those eyes, so that they had a lot of pain in them. And he said, you know, I wish our young people had something that the ones that use drugs that don't drink, I wish they had something around that they could go to meetings with and feel welcome. And he said, I've heard of a Pills Anonymous or Drugs Anonymous or something like that. And I was, you know, listening to him. And I was thinking about that coming home that night. And I got home the next morning. I was about getting close to 2 years clean. This was the first part of May, I think it was. And by that time, the fellowship had put me on the phone line, and I dealt with a cross addiction. You know, back in those days, cross addiction was the word, you know. He's cross addicted, alcoholic, but he's cross addicted. So they let me talk to on the phone line, they let me talk to the cross addicted people. And this lady called that had gone to school with my wife, and she was one of the girls that, when we started, and so I was out on the patio here. It was on Saturday morning. I got to thinking, what? So I just got on the telephone. Started calling around looking for Drugs Anonymous or Pills Anonymous. You know, I called every major city and the South. You know, and I was sitting there, I was talking to my dog. I talked to Spartacus. He was the old white German Shepherd I had. And the reason I talked to him is because he didn't talk back. And so I finally told Spartacus, I said, what do you reckon I ought to do, Spartacus? And I said, well, I guess prayer would be a good thing, you know. So I just said, well, what I need to do now, God, and hit me. I called the World Service Office of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now that is how I found out about NA. This lady told her what I wanted. And she said, let me call you back. So she called me back in a few minutes. He gave me the number, and he was for Narcotics Anonymous in Alhambra, California. I called that number, and it had been changed to a number in Sun Valley, California. I called that number and got an answering machine. That's when I first heard Jimmy Kennon's voice. And Jimmy called me back. That was on Saturday. Jimmy called me back the next day on Sunday, and I told him what was going on, and we talked a little while, and he gave me some phone numbers. There was a person up in Nashville. He gave me a number for him, one over in Chattanooga, and then he gave me Bo's number, and so I called the one in Nashville. What we wanted to do was go to an NA meeting, because we never had been to one, and we didn't know how much different it was or anything. And so Jimmy got me a package in the mail of kits and stuff or whatever, and starter kit. And so I called this number up in Nashville, and his name was Tommy. So this lady answered the phone, you know, and I asked to speak to Tommy, and she said, you got it. I said, my name's Tommy. I told her, I said, let's do an NA meeting. And she said, well, I just go out to the penitentiary once a week, but those guys out there are not interested in getting clean. All they think about is basketball and screwing, you know. So I didn't get much out of them. Then I called Chattanooga, and there's a lady here that worked out went out to Cadis or something, whatever it is. And that's how I found out they were having their first anniversary speaker meeting, and they asked me to come talk at it. And that's when I ran into Bo. Bo came up and he taped the talk, and I met Big Mike, who's over in Florence now, and he was living in Cleveland, Tennessee at that time. And so they had NA going up in Chattanooga for a year at that time. That was in June of 1978. And I was at the first speaker meeting. I was the speaker there. And I remember I had that old Pontiac. It was loaded down with people, and we were pulling out, and Bo was standing out in the middle of the street with his arms out like this, hollering, "I love you, Bill, I love you." And it was a straight street, went way up a hill. And my daughter was sitting in the back. She said, "Bill," we're way away from me. She said, "He's still standing out in the street with his arms spread out like that." And she said, "You reckon he's all right?" And I said, "I guess he was." You know, and he just, so, but a little bit later, I was asked to come over and speak at this place that's the First Presbyterian Church, Scout Hut. So on 16th and Peachtree, and so I rolled in over there, and they were having several things going on. They were having an eating meeting, they were having a dance and all that stuff. And that's where I first saw my first NA t-shirt. Bo was back there in the back putting a screen on something about, it was just black on whatever color. Said something about, showed a building or something, and miracles, something about goodness. Whatever it was, anyhow. But that's the first NA t-shirt I ever saw, you know. I don't really, there haven't been many printed since then. But at any rate, that was my first experience. I was trying to find the meeting to go to, and everywhere I went, everywhere I called, they just wanted me to come talk, and I still didn't learn anything. Now, I built a relationship with Jimmy Kennan, which I could go on and on about stuff. I never met him. Some of the people I have sponsored met him, because I went to Atlanta in '79 there to the World Convention, and met some people, a bunch of folks came from California, and I was amazed. I didn't know there's that many addicts in the world. You know, I don't know, there's 600-700 people there, I think, wasn't it? Something like that. I don't know. But at any rate, there were 4 of us there from Alabama. And then in '82, we went up to Milwaukee, and I thought Jimmy was going to be at that convention. There were 12 of us from Alabama went up there to that convention. We got a little bit of formation of things going on. I'm about to wind down here. I've still got a lot of stuff I can run on with. Anything specific I need to talk about?
Was that first meeting here in Alabama? Where was that located?
It was over at the a place called Retreat. It's Charter-owned. Charter-owned Peachford and a whole bunch of hospitals. It's still a psychiatric place, a nut house, what it was, you know. And or semi-nut house, whatever you want to call it. It's where people went and got detoxed, and you know, they come out of there. I worked there as a counselor several years after that, but that's where we had our first. That's where we first began to get some people out. First meeting, AA let us have a place upstairs where they met for a little while, and then we moved over to the retreat. And we moved up. That first anniversary we had was out at the Retreat Hospital. That's where when Bo came over and spoke. And we had a little thing out here, a little barbecue out here, and we had, 8 to 10 people. There was about 12, 15 people at the first meeting, at first speaker meeting, our first anniversary. And that was
how did inmate grow here in Alabama? Did it continue out from this point, or did it pop up?
Yeah, we went one night. Well, there it is. Talks about it right there. That's the main line or something like that out of California. We were going to Florence one night, Hustle one night, Birmingham one night. I got kicked out of a club down there one night at 5 Points. We went down there to 5 Points is the oldest AA group in the South, oldest. And that's where the guy Houston is in that. Have y'all read how that's part of the Houston got sober at 5 Points and moved to Montgomery and was working with an addict, an alcoholic down there, and then he moved to Lexington. But he went out and talked to this Dr. Vogel out there who, they have Addicts Anonymous there. They've had Addicts Anonymous there since the early 40s. But I went in down there, and they had supposed to have rented a little room from AA over there. So I went in there, and they had a big bar behind up there, and they served coffee and stuff. And I went in and talking to the people there. They mentioned some names, Bo and another guy too that I knew, and I talked about what SOBs they were, and I said, well, I didn't know that. I said, I've known them a little while now, and they seem real nice to me. And this one guy says, what are you doing here? I said, well, we're supposed to have an inmate meeting here. And he said, you don't even belong here. And he and this other guy come around, and each one of them got me by the elbow and ushered me out and told me that I had no business around the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I hadn't been back over there. One thing about it, I've learned if I ain't wanted somewhere, this program's taught me that I don't need to be there. I go where I'm invited. That's it. So, but I mean, that's kind of how we, it's kind of an asphalt for me, just riding around and sometimes there'd be one or two there, and then maybe 10, and the next week it would be maybe one, and then next week 7 or 8. So we did that, and we also went to Coleman, which is down south, and but things kind of how and in 79 they started down on the coast, Pensacola and Mobile. There was some meetings at Huntsville in 1976. A black guy, I met him, he's a counselor for the state. He and a lady down on Whitesburg Drive over in Huntsville had a meeting for about a year and a half. AA just wouldn't let him come to their meeting, so he and this lady formed an NA group down there, and I talked to him on the phone about it. I was going to get a talk about AA and make a tape of it, but I never have gotten up with it. Last I heard he was in jail, down in jail. But that's some of the early stuff. It's just
this starter kit in the century. What does that consist of?
It had a little old format on what you were supposed to do. It suggested you start the meetings at 7:30, and you read what you were supposed to read, basically what we do now, and it had 2 little white books in it. And it had, I believe it was 8 or 9 chips that had NA on them. And I kept those in my pocket. I didn't get them. And I took my IPs, had 2 or 3 little IPs, and I put those and put them in my, I was carrying a big book around. Didn't come and read the big book, work on the steps, read that little white book. And that's what, that's basically what we did. But we just, I don't reckon any of us ever went basic to the NA meeting outside this state for a long time. Because we just started doing what the format said. Got talking a little bit about a lot of things folks don't like to talk about, and that's feelings. Some people are scared of that. I don't particularly care about it. Well, I didn't use today, or, I didn't have a drink today, and stuff like that. That ain't living my problem. I don't know about y'all, but that's what's the problem. I gotta live. Not as bad as it was, but it still have problems with it.
And how long was it were you having more literature to actually use in the meeting?
Well, I remember telling Jimmy, I said, when are y'all going to write a book? Y'all, and that's when he began to tell me. He said, well, there's a guy over in Atlanta, and if you talk to Bo, and I said, yeah. And he said, well, he and a guy here, Greg, they are working on some stuff now. And when Bo was over here in '79, he asked me to be the lit chair. He said, what I want you to do is just, when you sit down and have a meeting, make some notes and just send us a little stuff. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I didn't do that. So anyhow, in early '81, February or somewhere, or January or something, Bo called me and says, listen, they'd already had one or two lit conventions working on the book. And he said, listen, I asked you 2 years ago about sending any feedback y'all had in any meetings. He said, you hadn't sent me a piece of literature. He says, how about writing your story? We're going to have a convention over in Memphis about 8 days from now, and that's the closest one it's going to be to you. The lit convention. I said, okay. I said, Bo, really? 8 days? I can't write that story in 8 days. He said, Bill, God made the world himself. So that's how he coerced me into that deal. That's how my story got in. And so I wrote it and took it over there, and the girl drove me over there, and I had some real bad back problems that time. That was amazing, sitting there watching it take place in Memphis State University. And there'd be people laying under a table asleep, maybe a half a pizza eaten, laying there on the floor, and somebody laying under the table, and somebody on top of the table typing. I guess about every hour that prayers in the front of the book about talking about God's divine precepts. I reckon they prayed that about every hour, something like that. And I was amazed. And Bo got there, had ink all over him. I don't know. Met one guy from California that's flown over there. It was amazing to see those people. But there's about 50, 60 people looked to me like at that 81 convention. And we had 2 or 3 there. Senior came up, and a little girl grows up. I don't know what happened. She stayed clean a long time, but I don't know where she's at today. She was our second RSR. But they were having something else over in Memphis. I forgot what it was. A guy named Rick H. from here, he and his wife was named Bonnie. And they took off over there to see what was going on, and they run into some folks over there about talking about regions and areas. And so they decided, I told Rick when he left here, I said, don't you go over and take on any jobs. And And sure enough, he comes back and he said he's gonna be there rest, you know. So some of the people we had here were definitely against even having a group going. So Clark got me going pretty good. Huntsville was going pretty good. Adams had a group. Coleman had a group, and Birmingham had something going, and Montgomery had something going. So we formed an area, and then went down, and they formed an area. Montgomery and Birmingham formed an area, and then I think you got a copy of the formation of the. Got a whole bunch of names written on it. Down at South Avondale Baptist Church, down on 4th Avenue South, and so we had two areas, so we formed a region. Now, were you at that region most? I think Elliot was there, or anyhow, the names are over on that thing. They were wanting, some of the folks from Georgia were wanting us to put on a deal at Cheehaw. But I told them, I said, man, we just got the nest built. Just wait a minute before we're going to have a little time before we lay some eggs. You know? So I remember telling that to Bo, I believe it was, or somebody. Anyhow, we started in 83, we started surrendering the mountains. That was over Cheehaw, and it's been going on ever since. I got some shirts and that sort of thing. And we had our first area meeting in June of '83. Freedom in the Valley, and then it's gone on from there. So that's more or less how things have kind of gotten started here. Well, I guess I'll just start to put some. I know they asked me to be the RSR because I had the most clean time, and after about 7 months I realized I wasn't in there for what I was supposed to be. I wasn't in there as a servant. I was in there for the prestige part of it. And so I called Cindy on the phone. I was her sponsor. And she was the chair. She was a good, level-headed person. And I said, "You're it." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're the one that, Ed took our first, motorcycle Ed took our first vote to the world on the book. We asked it to be just like the Gray Book, and oh man, those folks out there, God bless them. I used to get 2-3 telegrams a day from them about this book. What they wanted to delete this and add that, in the Gray Book. And Kevin called me one time and said, Bill, they've edited your story to a point that you got 2 sentences in here that they've edited it so it has no meaning whatsoever." He said, "You still have a copy of your thing?" I said, "Yeah, I think you got it. It's still on this book." And so I went and got it, and he asked me what they were, and I told him, and that's about the only 2 sentences in there that hadn't been changed. Because, these writers really worked on that book. That's why I really like to read that Gray Book. To me, it's got more recovery in it than any book I've ever read that they've ever put out. But that's my opinion.
When you say the writers, are you speaking of the World Literature Committee or some world committee?
I don't know. Some writers the world got, I reckon. I don't know who they were or what. All I know is they kept sending me telegrams that cost me $27 to answer. And we didn't have $27 when I got in the bank. And finally, I just sent them one telegram and said, "Look, we sent our boat out there to leave the book like it was. Don't send any more telegrams." So I guess they took that because I didn't get no more. Well, that was preposterous.
So this was the Alabama region, so it was.
Yeah, they wanted
to publish the basic.
And I wouldn't have voted on that anyhow to change it without the region approved. they wanted me to approve it. You know, I'm supposed to have whatever you call that, you know, that vote that they trust to be official. Yeah. So, but I, you know, I was thanks to that, so by that time I figured out I didn't really know a whole lot about anything.
So long about this time the book gets approved and published, and what was supposed to be here in Alabama about how it came out. How did it get here?
Yeah, well, it was that process, you know. We had the gray book, we had a few of them, and then the white slick came along, and the little gray book, and then they sent us this deal out. Anybody wanted a slick, you got one, only it wasn't slick, it was your regular paper.
That's the approval form, the original approval form?
Yeah. It was, they had a paper shortage out in California, and we had access to a copier with a collator, and man, we'd run those things 12, 1 o'clock every night. That collator was great. And then we'd have a meeting maybe in Birmingham. At that time we were coming to Birmingham to have meetings, and we'd hand them out to people, you know, 10, 12 at a time, different groups. And we got a nasty letter from California about cease and desist, and I talked to Kennan on the phone, and he told me to print all the warnings. If we couldn't get them from California, then it needs to be gotten somewhere, because we need to get the word out, you know, that NA has something going for it.
In that cease and desist letter, what was the reason they want you to copy?
They didn't want us reproducing any literature of any kind from Narcotics Anonymous. But they had apparently, I think the main reason is we weren't having to pay for that. But I really wasn't interested in that. If they'd asked for a donation, we'd been glad to pass the hat around and some money if they were hurting that bad. But you got addicts dying, and they don't know there's a way out. And people still walking around with a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous under their arm, and that don't get it, as far as I'm concerned, as far as an addict is concerned. It just don't tell the true story behind, you know, it doesn't tell the true story of the nature of the addict. Book of AA. That's a good book. Don't get me wrong. Great book for you just now talk. Got no problem with that, but I think the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous, by the grace of the loving God, was designed for people like me. I know there's a lot of folks that give it credibility. I wish there were more, but Sigmund Freud came up with a lot of crap that killed a whole lot of addicts, and still doing it, because they're passing out, still passing out. I don't know how it is where y'all come from, but they still, you know, they got all kinds of drugs for all kinds of people. I had 23 shrinks, and all of them told me that I was going to have to maintain in society, I would always have to use some kind of drug to stabilize it. Really? Well, I got some blood pressure medicine I take, and I have thyroid medicine I take, but I don't take anything other than that. It's not necessary. How'd I do that? Went to Narcotics Anonymous, you know. But I do not believe to this day that I would stay clean. I just, you know, honestly don't believe that. I'm not saying that to blow any smoke up anybody's record. But I firmly believe that today. A lot of other 12-step boats, I'm very grateful for them, but, you know, people like me, I need something that covers just a little bit more than talk about using, because I found out that there's one in there, and I talking about. They're talking about religion.
Around the rest of the country, there seems to have been kind of an explosion of needing to drive the basic six.
Yeah.
Was that your experience here in Alabama?
Even some of the treatment centers began to order basic six. And I haven't really had a problem with that because I really hope not saying anything about it, but we could get basic checks cheaper from Hazel than we could from World Service Office. And I've always wondered, instead of people flying around all over the world and everything, why they never bought me print press. I asked a guy who's a friend of mine in Huntsville, ran a printing thing. I had his a third edition of the basic text. And I asked him, I said, if I ordered 20,000 of these, what would you charge me? And he said, well, it'd take me a day to look it up. He said, you got any idea about it? I said, well, not really. But this was when the baby blue was kind of meandering around, you know. And he says, call me back about a week, and I'll have time to look at it. I called him back in about a week, and he told me it'd be a little over $1. It cost him to print it. That's what he told me. A little over $1. The binder, the hard part, would run about 17 cents. And he said, if you can, I can sell it to you for $1.57. Something like that, and do okay on 20,000 copies. And he said, but I'll tell you this much. He said, if you can tell the difference in my copy and this one right here, then I'll give you all 20,000. And he had enough money to do that. He did that. And I knew right then that somebody ought to be printing these things like World Service Office. Because there's a lot of junkies come around, and they say, oh, that guy can steal enough to buy him a book for $9 or $10, whatever he says it for. Yeah, but that one theft might put him right back out there with that needle in that eyeball.
Yeah.
They don't realize it. Another fellowship got a book twice our size, and they sold them for around $5. Cost the group $4 something. Now tell me there's some kind of deal. I don't know what the deal is, but there's something, smells to high health. I don't know what. It's not any of my business. But, I know there's a lot of people bought a lot of books and give a lot of books away. And I don't know why they have to change all these books except to sell some more. That's why I guess we got idiots like me keep on buying them. They're a little bit different. So I can say, well, I got one of those too. Well, I quit buying. I'm okay and I'm comfortable where I am. I contribute to Narcotics Anonymous to the best of my ability, and I wish them well. I hope they start doing, I hope our so-called, quote, greater NA starts doing something for the lesser NA. That's my opinion, and I'm sure that, and I was grateful that I don't express my opinion too much. We tried to start back in about 89, we started a formation and became a part of the region. We formed a committee that was voted in called the History Committee. And I had experienced some sad problems in service work, and I had gotten out of service work more or less except on the area level and group level. And we decided to form this history committee and got going real well. We got a lot of people involved and got conventions going on, and then we had some people that came down. I had it over in Madison between Decatur and Huntsville, and we had some people come down from Pennsylvania, and they were at that time peddling these baby blues. They were, I think they charged about whatever you can pay for them. That's what they. And I bought a couple hundred of them, some penitentiaries, some work releases, stuff like that. And so I'm guilty of that. If anybody wants to prosecute me, that's great too, you know.
Can you pause there just one second? I think Mark's having a problem with the baby. We'll back up to the baby blues.
Goes in top first.
There we go. How are we doing on time over there on the video?
Okay.
We've been about 45 minutes.
We're good. Is it rolling now? Okay, Bill, we were having a little technical difficulty here, and we were talking about you becoming involved with people in Pennsylvania that had access to.
Yeah, I came down to this convention. We had got this guy out of Pennsylvania that wanted to tape the thing, so he had given us a good price on it, and so we invited him down, but we didn't know what the whole deal was, and we didn't know till it happened. They had brought some books called Baby Blues now, and it's just the basic text part of the NA book, and they were selling them at a cheap price. Some people bought some at this convention, and other people got wind of it. They had people that were against this convention, sent some folks up there to surveillance a little bit, you know. And so we had the thing, and we thought it went off pretty well, and then everything hit the fan the next regional convention. People were accused of stealing, and all their sponsors, all these people accused about everything, had sponsors out on the West Coast. And they were not happy about anybody having history committees. For some reason or another, I don't know why, unless they had something to hide. That's all I know. I think it's gotten a little bit better now. And I think as long as you stay away from that mess out yonder, you'll be all right. Because I don't think they'll cooperate until all of them, like me, going to kick out here. You know, I'm very opinionated about these things because I've experienced a lot of pain from people out there. And for the good of NA, I don't know why history hadn't already been done. You know.
I'm sure talking about was that actually during a history convention?
Yeah, man, it was something else. I tell you what I was doing during that whole thing. I didn't even know what was going on. The alternate RSR from Florida, and now we're back there. He was copying all the stuff that I had got from Greg, and I was copying all the stuff that he had. And we had us a print copier back in one of the rooms there. And that's all we did that whole week. Was copy stuff. Copy. And I didn't even know what happened till after the thing was over. And somebody talked to me about the blue bus, and I said, yeah, I'll take a couple hundred of them. And I'm off a couple hundred of them and pass them out. You know?
And they were selling baby blues. What were they selling them for?
Seems like I paid $200 to go up there. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Like I said, my memory's not as good as it used to be. But that's the best that I remember. And
Is this during the history convention? Am I correct? There's been 2 history conventions?
yeah. And I resigned from the class was. He was pretty good on me, so I was at the regional convention the regional meeting over in Gaston when all this stuff hit the fan, and they accused people of stealing money and all sorts of all bunch of mess. And I told them I just wasn't interested in being in. I'm not, you know, the basic text tells me I don't have to fight no more, you know, and that ain't what it's about. And anybody if they talk about disagreeing but not being disagreeable, how in the hell do you do that to servicemen? You know, when people are pointing fingers at people, and if they had taken some of these meetings, there wouldn't any, and people that knew going to narcotics anonymous, they'd go to another fellowship. But said that people can't get together. You know, I said, you know what I suggested to the Alabama region, and they laughed at me? I suggested to them one time, I said, why don't you, when you have a proposal brought up, why don't you think about it, go out, have a break after you vote, before you vote this thing, and pray about it, and not talk to us so. You come in and vote to your conscience. They laughed at me about that. And I'm not interested in politics and narcotics. Never will be. I've seen too much pain from it. And the more I think on a group level, there ain't nothing like a group. You know, the groups get strong and they get weak, just like people. Program. Sometimes mine's strong, sometimes it's weak. And, but I've seen a lot of people being turned up away from Narcotics Anonymous because, and you know, there's a snobbery about us that doesn't exist in any other fellowship that I've ever seen. I don't know why in the hell we think we're so great. I was a member of a conference one time, and they met twice a year. Best conference I've ever seen in my life. It was in another fellowship. The old conference they got going here is pretty good. They meet once a month. Once a month. And it burns people up, traveling here and there and everywhere, trying to stay up with what's going on because of change. They can't, you know, what I'm trying to, why are we so important? Why are we so important? The first NA convention I went to in Nashville, they were swinging on the chandeliers. And they run them out. They run them out of Nashville. And, you know, and that's the, you know, you can look at the behavior. I don't know how it is where y'all are from. It seemed like I heard and they got run out of Atlanta for a while, didn't they?
We couldn't get a hotel for a long time.
Yeah, and
87.
Same thing happened up in Tennessee. So, you know, and I have to ask myself, you know, that's the behavior I had when I was youth, swinging on chandeliers. I'm not doing that anymore.
You think the fellowship's changed now?
I'm hoping it is. I think we need to grow up. I think that's my, doing things of the past is not, if nothing, like I said, nothing changes, nothing changes. And if you got people that are just I don't know about y'all, but I always had three problems. Selective hearing, selective thinking, and selective doing. I heard what I wanted to hear, I thought what I wanted to think, and I damn sure did what I wanted to do. That's why I did not like authority of any kind. And, I don't think they were going to kick some of the people from Alabama out of the NA because we allowed some people to say something about they were an alcoholic and an addict. They called them the Anders. All kinds. Well, it's been a great trip. I mean, if you can manage on this journey, there's nothing like it. Because it'll never be boring. Never be boring. And there's some couple of characters that you run into, y'all have already seen some of them, that you couldn't find anywhere else. Not any place there. And NA's given me a lot of wonderful opportunities to go places, do things, and meet new people. Past few years have been really great. I've traveled a good bit. Canada, up in the Midwest. I think to go to Louisiana next weekend. And their annual, I think Ed's spoke down there, they have a crawfish boil around here. And it's there are opportunities. This program, there's no limit to what can happen to you.
So can we move back to the history convention? I still have one question I wanted to ask you about that. Was World invited to participate in that thing?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, they sent us some things. They sent us some things that we used at the convention. Nobody came, but they did send us some material.
They work well, very busted.
Yeah. Betty, the second convention, Betty Kennan came out and talked, and a guy named Bill B. from, I think, California, and his father, Ethan. That's where he signed that book of mine, the Young Free. So, but it's been a real trip. I envy it,
Now we're up in the 90s, and we could use kind of an old time, that progressive home. Where do you see NA going from here? Next 25 years.
Next 25 years? Well, you got, there's a lot of new way of thinking, and what I see, the new ideas they got out, Dicky's invited me to a couple meetings, hadn't been, but I'm going to go, where they used to have, what do they call them now? They're not regions anymore, they're
Zones?
zones, yeah. That looks pretty good, I hope it's for the good of the fellowship, not the individual. We're all God's kids, and He loves everybody equally, and I found out that's the only thing, that's what this program has taught me, that there's no special person. Anything that I've ever accomplished in this program, he's the one who's behind me. It's just like life, the things that I'm comfortable with in life, he's the one that's put it there. The things I'm uncomfortable with, he's looking at the dude that did it.
Selective stuff again.
Huh?
That selective stuff again that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
I believe we lost our audience here. Do you have anything that you want to add to this, Scott? Or get anything down here on tape while we can?
Well, I appreciate y'all coming and asking me to be a part of it.
Well, Bill, we really appreciate you taking the time, because I agree with you. If we don't do something to preserve our history, we're going to lose it, and the only way to do it is to get the people who were there before they were no longer here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
That's a good movement. I hope you keep it going. Don't give up the ship. Yeah, there's some difficulties in life, but it's not, you can overcome them, you just keep your group going, and I wish our MA group hadn't, our history group hadn't kablumped, but I got most of it that,
You have someone before our guys here. Guys, we're kind of winding down here. If anybody has any questions for Bill regarding what he's talked about, or any questions. There doesn't seem to be any questions forthcoming. So Bill, we appreciate your time, your love of the fellowship, and do what you've done, and hope to carry a little piece of that fire forward.
amen. Y'all are young and do the footwork. I'll just sit back and watch you go.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Ever a player needs a spectator. I'll make a good spectator.
You make a great one.